Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. The Oregon Ducks continue to roll in the Pac-12, taking care of business at home against Caleb Williams and the USC Trojans. Want to give you guys some of my key takeaways from this Oregon team. And we've said this for the last couple weeks. This is a team that people don't want to see in the college football playoffs because of how dangerous this team is. Right? You look at how complete they are on both sides of the football, the run game, the pass game, how they're playing defense year two under Dan Lanning. This team is really rounding out into form. Want to go through some of my takeaways I had. Before we do, just want to say thank you to you guys and a special shout out, the Oregon fans, the Pac-12 fans in general. This is a conference. Staying up till 2:30 a.m. watching these games. I'm having a blast. The amount of support you guys show, always a ton of Go Ducks in the comment section. Appreciate you guys. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Would love to hear from you guys as well in the comment section, your takeaways from this win. Without further ado, let's get into it. I want to start with the Oregon defense 27 points against the number one scoring offense in the country. I thought Oregon played much better defense than the box score and the total yards even showed. Like most people on the East Coast, if you went to bed and didn't watch this, maybe you assume Oregon's defense didn't play that well. You watch the game, like this Oregon team played well. And at the end of the day, you were playing Caleb Williams and a USC offense that was number one in the country heading into this game in terms of scoring offense, averaging 45 points per game. And there were some plays that you just got to chalk up to Caleb Williams just being a really good football player. But on aggregate, and I thought this Oregon defense absolutely balled out. You saw two of the best quarterbacks in the country go toe-to-toe. Want to start with this Oregon defense and specifically talk about the defensive line. This is a position group that I said if it really hits its stride, that's what makes this Oregon defense special. Brandon Dorlus, Jordan Burch looking like all Pac-12 caliber plays. And we kind of knew they had that potential. Can they really reach it heading into this postseason play as you're looking at a rematch against the Washington Huskies? I thought they did a phenomenal job. And it wasn't just Jordan Burch and Brandon Dorlus. I thought it was the whole defensive line. And specifically, like when you play Caleb Williams, it's not only getting after the passer, it's about containing him, keeping him in the pocket. And yes, did Caleb Williams make some plays because he's really good at football? Yeah, sure he did. But I thought on aggregate, this Oregon defense did a really good job creating havoc, but controlled havoc and keeping Caleb Williams in the pocket, making him uncomfortable. Again, it never really seemed like Caleb Williams in this USC offense were able to get comfortable. And I thought a large part was that defensive line has been phenomenal. And I thought they were also really good in the run game. You take a look at the numbers, USC only running for 73 yards. This was a team that was top 15 in the country in yards per carry. The front seven played really good. Justin Jacobs, I mean, the transfer from Iowa, he's healthy, playing for the Ducks. I think he is maybe the best linebacker on this team. That's saying a lot because they have some really good linebackers. But Justin Jacobs inserted into this lineup, I think it's been absolutely phenomenal. And you look at the back end, I mean, Evan Williams is emerging as just kind of a do-it-all guy in the back end, playing inside the box, getting behind the line of scrimmage, recovering fumbles, tackles for loss. I think he's really good in the back end as well. Bringing him over from Fresno State, you wanted a veteran piece in that back end, a guy that can do a lot of different things. Evan Williams is checking a lot of those boxes. Tasheem Young played a phenomenal game. And then you look at the cornerback room, again, going up against Caleb Williams and a really talented bunch of wide receivers, they play phenomenal. And you go back and watch some of that film. Sometimes it was just a really good catch on the wide receiver and a really good throw by Caleb Williams. And if they make those plays, again, you tip your cap to them. Jaleel Florence, Manning, Nico Reed, Tawaski Bridges, I thought played well at Oregon, really deep in that secondary. And even with guys going down, a ton of dudes are stepping up. And you're starting to see a thing for Dan Lanning, and that is long, physical cornerbacks who are really good at playing with the football in the air. And he's recruiting those guys. He's bringing them in. You're starting to see that pay off. I think this Oregon defense played a lot better than many people on the East Coast waking up to this score. Maybe you think it was a shootout. I thought this Oregon defense played extremely well. Now, flipping to the offensive side of the ball, let's just say it how it is. I think Bo Nix is the Heisman right now. You take a look at the quarterbacks across the country. Bo Nix is in such command of this offense, threw for over 400 yards. This was one of his, Heisman games, right? You're going up against the former Heisman Trophy winner last season, one of the best offenses in the country. And Bo Nix just absolutely dicing it up. And I think what makes this Oregon offense so special is Bo Nix is one of the best quarterbacks in the country, but they can run the ball at such a high level. And when you have the run game Oregon does and the explosive passing attack Oregon does, the playbook for Will Stein is wide open. Getting the play action going, doing a lot of different concepts downfield. Rome Odunze, Jalen McMillan, Jalen Polk, they get a lot of hype for Washington. They are a really good wide receiver room. Troy Franklin, Tez Johnson, that wide receiver duo is really special. Troy Franklin being maybe one of the all-around best wide receivers, not only in the Pac-12, but in the country. Many Oregon fans know I've been kind of banging the table for Troy Franklin for a while. And then Tez Johnson, just get him in space, let him make somebody miss, and let him take it to the house. You couldn't script a better start for the Oregon Ducks, getting a stop, and then Tez Johnson, I believe the first play from the line of scrimmage, 75-yard touchdown, makes someone miss, hits the burners. Tez Johnson, Troy Franklin, phenomenal games out of them. You talk about the run game. Bucky Irving, again, Troy Franklin being one of the best wide receivers. I think Bucky Irving's one of the best running backs. Banged up ankle, did not matter. Out of the backfield, he's great. But he's a guy that, although $195 tops, this dude runs the ball like he's 220 pounds. And I thought the offensive line play is, you have to clean up some of the things, right? Jackson Powers Johnson is arguably the best center in the country. And yeah, there were a few kind of missed snaps, and you got to clean that up. And I know Dan Lanning, Malik Terry, they're going to get that stuff cleaned up on the offensive line. But from a pure watching Jackson Powers Johnson just move people off the line of scrimmage, work up to linebackers, and just pave the way for Bucky Irving, Jordan James, that is some special stuff. This Oregon offensive line really rounding out into form again. A USC defense that obviously has some problems. USC's defensive line is not bad. And I thought Oregon just kind of dominated at the line of scrimmage. You have a really balanced attack. You ran the ball for 140 yards. You threw the ball for 400 yards, had 550 total yards of offense. There's not many ways to stop this Oregon offense. You want to load the box and try to take away the run. Guys like Troy Franklin, Tez Johnson, they're going to beat you deep. And you want to play two high safeties, try to not let Bo Nix hurt you through the air. Bucky Irving and Jordan James just going to row grade all day long. How complete this team is and the stride that they're hitting and the level Dan Lanning has them playing right now, I think is really encouraging. And one of the most exciting parts and my biggest takeaway I got in my note sheet right here is that I don't even think that was the best version of the Oregon Ducks. You had 13 penalties for 120 yards. That is way too much. Dan Lanning said in his press conference or in the post-game interview, we got to clean a lot of stuff up. Pre-snap penalties, 13 penalties for 120. Definitely not acceptable for Dan Lanning. A few botched snaps. Field goal kicking, another thing you got to clean up. At the end of the day, though, if you clean some of that stuff up, and that is just getting into practice, making sure we're not doing some boneheaded stuff. And if you clean that up, that was a really good game. And the score on the scoreboard, I don't think was as reflective of how good this performance was for the Oregon Ducks. And I got to give a shout out to the Oregon Duck fans. That is, I feel like people on the East Coast don't appreciate how special of an environment Autzen Stadium is. And as a Big Ten fan myself, a Michigan fan, I cannot wait to make it out to Eugene and catch a game for the Oregon Ducks. Because, that's some special stuff. And it's something special is brewing in Eugene. I'm fired up about it. You guys know I'm a Dan Lanning guy, so appreciate the Oregon fans rocking with the boys. It is 2:30 a.m. in the morning. The fella's going to get some sleep. Massive win for the Ducks. Again, appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.